Okay.
Ba-da-ba-ba-da. Oh, that's not our music.
No, that's not it.
Okay.
Okay, I'm Bill Merck, joined again with,
Vince McDonald.
and today we have a special guest
Here
here,
he is.
Steve Entwistle. How are you, sir?
Doing good.
Doing good. So today our topic, we're going to kind of get into homeschooling and sheltering kids and protecting kids, and we're just going to kind of see where that goes.
Good, the bad, and the ugly of
The
sheltering
good, the
kids.
bad, the ugly.
But we're going to touch on every educational aspect
Absolutely.
in that conversation because you have to.
You have to.
There's pros and cons to every avenue.
Mhm.
Absolutely. So you and I went to Christian school, but you went to public school for a little bit, right?
I went to 8 years of Catholic school,
Okay.
and I graduated Catholic school in 8th grade.
Okay.
Went to Maple Shade High School in 9th grade, and then I went to Baptist High School in 10th grade. So I was really in three different kind of, the most of it being Christian-based, God-based, which we'll talk about, but, a year of Maple Shade High School there in the sandwiched in it.
Okay. I went from kindergarten to my senior year, and then I went to Camden County College for a semester and a half, let's say.
Okay.
And then I dropped out, so I don't have a lot of anything else.
Well, grade school, where
Grade school.
was where? At public?
No. It was all Christian school. So
Oh.
I went Bethel from kindergarten to 8th grade, 9th grade to my senior year was Baptist High.
Oh,
And
I
then
got you.
I can still sing the alma mater.
Yeah.
Baptist High, our alma mater.
What do you think? What do you think about alma mater
Lift the name on
stuff?
high.
why did you still know that? I didn't know when I was there.
I don't know why I'm the only
He's a
one who's
music guy.
memorized it.
He's a music guy.
Oh, well, I don't like music. I mean, I can't sing.
Not good music, but whatever.
Oh, that's it.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts, Vince,
Yes.
on Bob Dylan? Because I
Oh.
just found out this guy
Oh boy.
doesn't like the Bob Dylan.
I made an enemy.
Oh,
Yeah.
I lost so much respect for him.
I
I mean, he's one of my closest friends. And my
In the beginning, long time ago.
no, but we so you and I went to Chicago together,
Yes.
not the place, the
Yeah, the
band.
band.
If you're asking,
Which Chicago I love.
yeah, if you're
Steve's
asking me,
not-
does Bob Dylan have a good voice?
No,
No,
that's
Right.
He
He
does
does
Bob
not.
Dylan have a good- I didn't say
he's not
that.
even a singer.
No,
Oh,
that's
get
right.
out of here.
He's not.
Oh, get
He's
it.
not. He's
No.
not like
He's
Glenn.
the freewheeling
He's-
Dylan.
he's-
He's awful.
He's creative,
Yes,
Uh,
he's
and,
creative.
and he was, a pioneer in putting some words to song.
Yeah.
But,
Oh,
Yeah,
I
I
guess
guess he
that-
was definitely
yeah.
like lightning in a bottle for the time.
time is
Perfect.
done.
now I've
But-
used some of his songs for sermon illustrations, like knock, knock, knocking on heaven's door. That one,
Yeah.
But
Oh yeah.
Man, you.
I
didn't know you could ruin
the
Bob.
version of that song that I first ever heard was Guns N' Roses.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I didn't even know Bob Dylan wrote that song
Oh,
or anything.
you're awful.
Well, you had
It
me
doesn't
sing
matter
one. You
because
had
it
me
might
sing
sound terrible.
about like
Yeah,
if I'm getting dragged through the streets, I'll still come looking for you or whatever. It was
Forever Young.
Yeah, Forever Young.
was it?
Yeah.
No, it was the one that I will.
No, that's Rod
Who's that?
Stewart.
Oh, Rod Stewart.
No, it was.
See,
It was.
that's
Anyhow, this
Anyway, okay. Well, the
podcast.
point. Nobody cares. Anyway, Steve and us have gone to a billion concerts together.
Yeah.
Then I found out he.
I'm sorry, man. But that's how you know we're good friends, because we can have this huge rift and still get along.
And
That's what this whole podcast is built. Except for the beginning, we got a lot in common. We got a lot that we don't agree on.
Yeah.
Fair enough. All right, Steve. So let's hear. So did you go to school?
No, I didn't actually. I'm completely uneducated. No, I was homeschooled from the very start, all the way through my senior year of high school. And actually, my senior year of high school, I didn't do any school whatsoever, because it was the same year that my grandmother was moving out of her house. My grandfather had died in 98. 2005 technically was my senior year in high school, but my grandmother was living alone, she ended up having to move in with us, and my mom started taking care of her full time. So that whole year, I was actually with my mom at my grandparents' house, packing,
Yeah.
moving my grandmom out, and doing all the things. And funnily enough, actually, Joe Massimilla was the person who came to our house and like remodeled half of our first floor for my grandmother to move in. So that's actually how I sat with Joe Massimilla for hours while he was building the bathroom and the room and everything that she would stay in, and which was great. But yeah, that whole last year, I did not do any school, and I just
I think the reality
got my
is
GED.
that's can be one of the advantages of homeschooling.
Yeah.
You like, you can be so advanced. Like I just pick up, my own niece, Catherine. I mean, was by what would be her senior year, she was already taking college courses.
Yeah.
Like you really can excel,
Mm-hmm.
particularly if you have good guidance.
Right.
Well, I think that's
The ratio,
important part.
you can't match the ratio in a school. There's no way you can pay a teacher to teach 2 kids or something like that.
Yeah.
So that part. I mean,
I think though too, yes, that's a positive. I mean, my nephews, they've been homeschooled always. Well, actually, my oldest nephew, he was not for like a couple of years, but they've all been homeschooled for quite a long time in their entire high school and like middle school time. And same thing. He's been doing college courses since he was in his sophomore year of high school, and so he's literally cut down an entire year of college that he has to attend, and he'll be going to Geneva this year. So, I mean, it's positive. Now that was not my experience. God bless her. My mom, like, she taught all 4 of us and 5 of us actually, because my adopted sister eventually, and like taught us all sorts of things. The one, like, I suppose weakness was math, right? I mean, I probably got to algebra 1 and I struggled at algebra 1. I wasn't really taught it well. I was just reading the book, trying to learn from the concepts. My dad he would come home from work and my mom would be like, Glenn, you've got to talk to Steve about this problem. I have no idea what it is or how to explain it. So that would be for sure where I struggled and sort of where my learning just sort of capped out. I mean, I just stopped.
Yeah. Now, obviously, everything with homeschooling also ties into technology, where you were at the time. So I was saying last night on our Wednesday Night Live, when I first became a pastor, nobody was meeting their spouse on online dating because there was no online dating. There was no web experience in 1990. And when you were being homeschooled, maybe there wasn't the same online, that your mom could just
we
sign
had,
up for it out.
CompuServe.
Yeah.
CompuServe dial up, and you got that crazy radio pitch frequency thing that was while you were logging on. Yeah.
So now,
no, there was
your kids are homeschooled now.
Yeah.
And do you see? Is there a lot of difference from when?
Oh yeah. I mean, first off, when I was growing up, it was pretty funny. My mom, because homeschooling was like kind of taboo, really. When I was growing up, it was like people would do it, but it was like, don't tell the neighbors you're homeschooling because they're going to be the people who are like, oh, school board so and so has their kids at home all day long, and how are they learning, and who's monitoring them? And New Jersey doesn't have any of those regulations where you absolutely have to take
That's what we
state test or
way
anything.
back. And I want you to go with the question he gave you, but when Emmy Tatum years ago was our church secretary, she was homeschooling her kids and did a terrific job with it. I was surprised because New Jersey has so much regulations.
Yeah.
When she said that's one area where they kind of, whether it's they respect the parent or whatever, they don't have
I don't know what their deal is, but it is surprising. New Jersey's very easygoing on homeschooling. So, but yeah, she would say, no, don't go outside during school hours, or we would go in the backyard and that was it. Obviously, as I got older, I didn't even care. And neither did she. I'm the youngest. So eventually she was just like, whatever.
Well, right. Back in the day, now I'm a lot older than you.
Yeah.
But, like you don't even hear the word truancy today. Like, but in the TV shows, like if a kid was out of school, the truancy officer, you know. So I don't know if your mom was like,
no, she was my truancy officer. I guess
the
like,
Little
you
Rascals,
gotta do school,
you know, that era.
Yeah, no, but
Little Rascals.
Yeah, like they
No,
they
I
were
know
running from the truth.
I get it. I'm just saying. You're not even old enough for the Little Rascals. I mean, I've seen my
kid.
I mean, like, I mean, because he was homeschooled.
yeah, trust me, I watched everything.
That was first period.
Yeah.
Little
Those
Rascals.
are my friends. We hang out, you
Come
know.
on, no Gilligan's Island.
Yeah.
That was the one show that my mom would be like, "You're not allowed to watch Gilligan's Island because it'll make you dumb."
Really?
Because they just
And it's like a bunch of buffoonery, really. I mean,
do you know who did the music? I heard this yesterday.
no.
John Williams.
I was going to guess John Williams
From
because
Star
John
Wars.
Williams is in everything.
Really?
He does everything.
Yeah.
I'm not surprised.
That's John. Okay.
I'm not
I mean,
Yeah.
that's what I heard, but
anyway,
But yeah, I think that was a good
don't
point.
fact check me.
No, the thing that I wanted to hear him keep was the difference of generationally with homeschooling,
Right.
how far we've come or whatever. You know.
yeah. So when I was in homeschooling, it was all like we did like self-taught books, and my mom would guide us. We always had Bible in our curriculum, but really it was just part of our day.
Yeah.
And then as things went along, like she got VHS tapes, so proctored like or not proctored, but just like pre-recorded classes for different things. And mostly my brother kind of did those. And then now it's like, man alive, the homeschool community is massive, and it's like we now with our kids, we actually have co-ops that will take them to where they actually do learn sciences and just things that like we're either not able to facilitate in our home or just we don't have the opportunity to do for one reason or another. We'll actually join a co-op, which is like a super small fee, and then they have teachers and they have people who are like science teachers and music teachers and whatever, and again with a whole bunch of kids, 40, 50 kids, and it's just a couple times maybe a week for a season. And so that's a huge difference because I was never in any of those things. I didn't do any kind of outside schooling activities whatsoever, unless it was by my own, done by me.
So then the socializing.
Now
you feel that.
Well, even honestly, even for me, I never had a problem socializing. We had plenty of friends from church. They were all in the public school system, save like a couple families. So we were always with them. It was multiple times a week at church or multiple times a week at their house hanging out. And my mom kept those connections going. And then as we got older, our friends from church had other friends in the public school system. And then eventually I was literally going to Riverside Middle School and high school after school hours to pick up my friends, and we'd go out skateboarding and skate all around Riverside and Delran and whatever, and Delanco all the time. So, and then of course, like I got into town sports, so I played hockey in the rec leagues in town too. So
sounds like you have more friends than I did.
Yeah, there was no shortage of friends, and I remember too working at the bakery. My boss, because I was very quiet, especially when I started working at the bakery, because I was 16, and it was my first job. They were all very unchurched, and proud, proud to be, right? And they would make fun of me all the time. And one of the things they said was just like, the one owner was like, Steve, I don't know, how is it possible? How are you going to ever meet anybody? How could you possibly have a social life? And I'm like, everybody says that about homeschooling. And yes, there is a section of homeschooling where they're very sheltered, but that is like, we're so far past that.
Right.
I mean, that's really not what homeschooling looks like. And it didn't for me.
Right.
So did it change during COVID?
I think that helped. Yeah. Because internet infrastructures were upgraded. I mean, people were only online, so they were actually kind of boosting their own product to make sure it was a lot easier to engage online and things like that. So it definitely did help. But I would say for us specifically, just knowing the space, I know that. But for us specifically, it didn't matter because we don't really do anything online for the kids. So
The personality of the kid's always going to play in. I mean, we had when I was in high school, there was a guy in our class who just was just kind of very inward, and you know what I mean. So, like you said, he might have been in a school surrounded by all these kids, but had far less social life than Steve or anybody who was being homeschooled.
It's a personality thing too, I think. I mean, my brother was really outgoing. My sister was. They both kind of had the same friend group because they're like 3 to 4 years apart. And then I was always with my brother. So wherever he went with his friends, I was. And for whatever reason, I guess I was easygoing enough there where he wanted me there, which was great. And then I just, their brothers and sisters, their younger brothers and sisters, I would meet, and just by default, and the social group kind of grew, that way. So
now with your kids, they went to Christian school through their entire lives?
Yeah. But I mean, like I said, that we would no doubt touch on it. That as a pastor, often people would want me not to take a side, but and I've said, listen, education is all about the family. It's all about the parents. If the parents, in other words, if the most important part of a child's life is their home. If in their home they're seeing real Christianity, right? I'm getting off topic a little bit, but I've always said this. The hardest thing for a Christian child is if their parents act one way at church and it's not real at home. That causes this, right? It causes this tremendous dichotomy of what's real, what isn't real. Are we just so? But if you have a Christian home, and no, not a perfect, we all know that, but where there's a genuine confidence in God, doesn't mean you're not going to have times, oh no, what are we going to do? But you have a genuine confidence in God. You're walking with the Lord. There's a humility that lets you even be able to say to your kids, I was wrong the way I responded there. And there's a cheerfulness that what we're saying, that we have eternal life and all does, that's the heart of it. Now, from there, to me, the parents decide. In other words, I believe Christians can send their kids to public school. I believe they can send them to private school. I believe they can homeschool them. I can see reasons, is what I'm saying, for everyone. There are some who feel very strongly that it shouldn't be this or it should be that, and I understand that. But to me, I've always, as a pastor, tried to say, all right, if you guys are homeschooling, great. There's a great opportunity to mold your children there. If you're sending your children into public school, be involved. But the same with Christian school. Right. There are some parents who send their kids to Christian school as if all right, the school's going to keep. Yeah.
They're going to grow you spiritually.
Yeah.
And the parents just basically check out because they're paying for this Christian education. Right. And that's really, I think, why there's such a high rate of attrition towards the Christian faith for individuals who go to Christian schools, because they're actually really, at that point, they're framing Christianity, your relationship with Christ, like work. What kid loves school? I mean, a very low percentage. They just don't want to do that because they're children.
Right.
So if you're going to go to like this structured Christian school, that's the classroom vibe, and it's just the teacher who's yelling at you because you're being a disruption to the other. And that's not Christian because you're being a stumbling block. Yeah. I mean, you hear all the things where context of scripture is completely taken out, and it makes the kid feel terrible, and why would they want to be a part of that?
And that can be the experience.
Yeah.
And there
not
can
always,
be,
but it
right,
can be.
there can be the wonderful Christian school experience. So I guess what I'm saying is that I try to support the parents, but remind them, whether homeschool, public school, Christian school, you're the key for your kids.
Yes.
It's never the educators.
That's
You're
right.
the key for your children.
Yeah.
You're the one that gives them a sense of what's real, security, and that the things that we believe, we're okay that other people don't believe them. It doesn't. We have an anchor you know,
And that's how that also spills over actually into the church,
yeah,
because we kind of experienced it too. I think like the ebbs and flows of sort of engagement in church ministry, but
yeah,
Sunday service is the main service for a church, right? And
sure,
at least during a portion of our ministry in our other church was where look, we didn't have staff to teach kids for quite a long time. So we would have to have, the parents would just bring their kids into the sanctuary, which was great. And we kind of worked on trying to make sure that the kids had something to engage them.
yeah,
But there was like a high level, really kind of across the board where their kids really weren't learning anything because the parents really would just be like, here's an iPad or here's headphones and just be quiet.
yeah,
And really, of course,
yeah,
because they're nervous, they don't want their kids to be a disruption or whatever. But at the same time, they're also missing an opportunity to say, hey, here's a children's Bible or here's a Bible worksheet or something
right,
that you can actually read and do and be engaged in sort of what's happening
right.
in the service.
And those are all, I'm going to say, additions to. I'll stick with my theme.
No.
The church for a child, it in other words, it's still the family unit that's going to be their greatest impact. So that even when a child comes home from Sunday school, it's good if the parent says, "Hey, what was it about?"
Yeah,
and
what's
engage that. And you've said something that just touched a thought in me, is that sense of, it's not, we're not talking about homeschooling, well, obviously we're talking about the church right now,
Mhm.
but because I think it's all one pie,
Absolutely.
that we bring our kids into the service, they'll eventually go into children's church. But even in those few moments, I try to sit on the side where the kids are,
Yeah.
and just turn around and fist.
Yeah.
I don't mean like, hey, look what I'm doing. I just mean in the sense of letting the kids know, hey, I'm your pastor.
Yeah, it's good engagement.
Like, we're glad you're in here. You know what I mean? And we value your presence in our service,
Right.
so that when it's time for them to stay for the whole service, you're not going to solve everything, but at least have them have a sense of, well,
and you're not the man in the high castle,
Right,
like
right.
that novel, Philip P. Dick. Like, you're not this like man in the high tower.
I learned a lot of stuff in homeschooling.
No, I read that book.
Yeah.
I read that book in my 20s.
Wow.
I think with anything, you look and you say, so as I support parents who choose whichever means of education, there is the reality that Christian school and homeschool share that public school does not, is that the parents would want to affirm, if their kids are going to public school, is that there is truth, there is absolute truth, and God is the source of all truth. Because that's the one element there that I think you. If you asked about my family, I always said to my kids, we're not afraid. Like, if God doesn't provide the funds and you need to go into the public school system, we have a terrific public school system here in Maple Shade. And I said, we have no fear of that. It would just be that I would be saying to my kids at the end of the day, hey, this is what they want you to put on the test, and this is what you need to put on the test. We're not going to rebel,
Right.
But we believe God created, or you know what I mean? And you can be confident in God created while you also, understand the views of
Yeah,
the
it
world.
really just kind of introduces maybe different talking points for you and your kids.
Yeah,
If they're in public school or a Christian school or homeschool. I mean, there's some things we simply don't have to worry about talking about right now because they're not in public school.
right.
And thank God. Right?
That's good.
That's part of our
Exactly.
choice.
Right.
But again, I mean, we've talked plenty of times. Like, for one thing, my wife went to public school. Well, she went to Catholic school for the first couple of years, and then like a couple of grades, and then went to public school for all the way up through. She graduated at Riverside High. So, and of course, all my parents went to public school. Now, granted, that was a different time and place, but my wife lived through a lot of the conflicts and things like that that are happening today in public schools. So, and she's like a God-fearing woman.
Yeah.
So, I'm not going to pin public school or anything like this on the downfall of a person's character or
Right.
whatever. Yes, it could feed into it, but I think it's just a testament to her parents and their willingness and drive to keep her engaged in her relationship with Christ. But for me, when I was growing up, or like after I graduated, I met Debbie and we were talking about getting married and all those things. We had the conversation about like, well, homeschool or public school, what's going to happen? And we don't even have the money for private schools, so that's just out of the
Right,
equation.
and that's a reality.
Right? Yeah, it's very expensive. So, and Debbie was just like, I don't want to homeschool. No, like I went to public school, it was fine. And I'm like, okay. And I'm thinking like, oh boy, here we go. Like, how's this going to work out? Because I was actually more afraid at that time. I didn't really understand the purpose of homeschooling.
Right.
I just knew it was familiar, and I was afraid of all the other things. And then as like I got older and I got perspective, and we had Aria, who, Aria was born, our oldest daughter, she was born in 2014. By the time she like went to school, like we did preschool and stuff at home. Like we didn't need to send her. But then eventually when we were going to send her to public school, it was COVID. COVID had just hit. So I was like, well, I guess we're homeschooling anyway. And then when things kind of like lifted, it was like, we're pretty much in a group. It's all good. And over the years, basically, we kind of learned to understand through like the help of my older sisters, the benefits of homeschooling sans fear. It was all about Christ. And
That's good.
And on that note, we're going to take a break.
Good, because I want to get back to that topic of fear. Good.
Okay. Fear when we come back. We will be afraid.
Welcome to Emmanuel Baptist Church, where our focus has been building strong lives in Jesus Christ since 1925, right here in Maple Shade, New Jersey. With 2 Sunday services at 9 a.m. and 11 a.m., you can choose the time that works best for you. And if you have children, our Greenhouse Kids Ministry and Nursery are available during the 11 a.m. service, so you can worship without distractions. But that's not all. On Sunday mornings at 10 a.m., we offer Sunday school classes for all ages. And if you're looking for a midweek pick-me-up, we have a variety of events on Wednesday nights. For more information on all of our programs and events, visit our website at ibclife.org. Follow us on social media and check out our weekly bulletin. And there's one more way to stay connected with us. Download our Church Center app. With this convenient app, you can stay up to date on all of our events and register for programs. Emmanuel Baptist Church, building strong lives in Jesus Christ.
Okay, we are back.
We are back.
And we are ready to get into some fear.
No, what I meant was I really
Go.
appreciated his last comment, not his closing
My
statement.
closing
Your
statement.
closing
Is, I'm the jury number 7. No, yeah, was when he said seeing the value and the benefit without fear, because we always have to, as believers. First off, we live in a world right now where people just stoke fear. They're certainly, if there's edicts coming from the federal down, about issues that maybe as believers we are concerned about that would be filtering into the educational system, that is not really what we would consider educational topics. It's more values and that kind of thing. You can read about the extremes, and with media today, the extremes become. So in other words, one teacher in California taught their first graders this, and through media, and there's a purpose for it. Everybody knows about it, and so parents are all fearful. And the reality is in Maple Shade itself, we have, and I'm saying this genuinely in case our current superintendent of schools, Beth Norcia, wonderful relationship with her, and we've talked, and she shared that yes, the state gives certain kind of, I don't know, principles, whatever you would call them, but the school determines the curriculum and can decide we're going to do this at this age level and that. And for me, one of the things I try to say to parents who may be fearful of that element is, first off, stop and look at some of the public school teachers in our church.
Yeah.
Whether it's Mark Johnson, Christine, they're, I don't know if I get it, but Mark's involved in a program at Haddon Hills High School where he's just kind of the sponsor. We have tremendous of these teens that are gathering before school hours.
Mm-hmm.
Great impact there. And then I say, look at some of the people. Look at Holly McCleary, who came all through the Maple Shade school system. I mean, I don't think I think more highly of anybody than her.
So.
Yeah. No, what I meant is,
might as well just leave.
No.
I know Holly's great.
What I meant is this: to let yourself not fear. God's in control. You build a if your kids are in public school, my point is, build a relationship with the teacher. Communicate. Be honest. Don't be going in there ready to battle. Go in there, but Christian school. Don't drop your kids off the door and think, because every kid that goes in that Christian school brings their sin nature.
Yeah.
Sometimes some people will say, like you said, "Oh, you're sheltering them," and I'm thinking, I was in Christian school. Every sin that existed at Maple Shade High existed. So parents, stay involved. Homeschooling is a tremendous way if you're able. If you're able, like I don't think every family, and I don't know if you would agree with this, but I don't think every family structure is necessarily if you can't be disciplined.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
It's a deliberate choice, and the more that my wife and I talk about it, and we just kind of experience it, it's a life choice. Like we have to say no to things, we have to rearrange things, we have to do all sorts of things, and it's only for our kids.
Yeah.
So, okay, well, we need to take them to this thing. Well, it's not like they're sitting in Cinnaminson Public where we live. They're just sitting in a classroom from 7:30 to 3 or whatever. They're actually with us, so it changes our whole dynamic. And
sure.
We have to be diligent about that. And I'm not saying we're perfect by no means, but I'm just saying, we're still learning with our kids, but like, it's definitely an element of dedication and focus, and it just shifts your whole family dynamic. So yeah, I would not say that everybody should homeschool, and I think
I would not be a good homeschool parent.
Yeah.
Now, Ethan went to Baptist High all the way, for the most part, Baptist Regional, whatever it is, and graduated there. Violet goes to Haddon Heights High School. She never had Mark Johnson as a teacher because he does high-end math and she hates him. But I wouldn't be a good. It's okay. She
does what she likes.
Mine doesn't okay with this.
Violet would be fine with it. No, but she's gotten things that I didn't get at Christian school with, like, she's amazing at art, and they just didn't have that program as far, because she did start there, but then goes to Haddon Heights now. But she also tells me, when we go back to, like, fear, that some of this media stuff, like, the other day I asked her, and I know it's weird, but something about, are there actual litter boxes in school? Because I heard that a while ago, like,
because there may be in a school somewhere in the country.
She said, no, there's no litter boxes in our school. But she did, and maybe I'll have to edit this out, I don't know. But she was using the transgender bathroom because it was a single stall bathroom.
She likes her privacy.
And she wanted her privacy. And she said, if you hear about it, this is what it has. It's actually very nice because it's single stall. I don't have to worry about it. But then everybody discovered it. Now she's like, no, I'm back to the old ways.
Right.
It's way different from when I remember coming to Maple Shade High as a freshman and walking in the bathroom and hearing all the toilets flush because not realizing the kids were smoking.
Right.
And like being scolded by some of the upperclassmen. You're supposed to say everything's cool when you come in. And I was like,
There's a code. There's a code.
Nobody was smoking and are needing perpetual help in the bathroom.
Well, the thing is
just a different generation.
Violet got patted down out of it from last week or a couple weeks ago because a vape detector went off.
Uh,
And it wasn't her, it was one of the other girls in the school that doesn't vape.
Well, like we said, there is
a whole
the
new
pros
world.
and cons of each.
Yeah.
Obviously, I would think it's a tremendous benefit to be taught by teachers who believed that, in other words, there is a God and all truth has come from Him.
Right.
Well, but the country we live in isn't a church, right? And we don't want it to be that. I don't even want it to be, because if our what I mean is, if our country became dominated by Muslims, I wouldn't want the Muslim theology to be taught in the public school.
Right.
The advantage, obviously, what you touched on, is some of that. But I'm going to bring this back to homeschooling. Is the resources? You just can't match the resources. But our tax dollars, that also means that those resources are available to homeschoolers, right? The parents, if they're like a study team come in, or
yeah, like we can do certain things. There are some things, and we really don't know all the ins and outs of it, quite frankly. But we're still learning about like what we're able to benefit from or not. I mean, we are paying 100% of school taxes,
right?
Even though we're not,
right,
sending our kids. So, which again, it's our choice. That would be something I would think should maybe be looked at. But at the same time, like New Jersey, we're pretty fortunate from a homeschooling perspective. So, paying taxes, it is what it is. But we benefit from the township sports. We know that we could go to our school system and see if we can get our kids engaged in sports. And I know that some districts do allow that, even though they're homeschooled. So, and also New Jersey provides a stipend for homeschooling families. And what you do have to do, there is, I would say, a catch. It's not like a negative thing, but you have to provide that, documentation that your kids are passing tests and things like that. So it's like a great, 100%. So I would say, hey, if a family needs that stipend and they want to benefit from that, where they can purchase different curriculum and things like that, or maybe put them in sports and they didn't have the ability to buy them equipment or whatever before, like that is a really beneficial thing that New Jersey provides, which we don't take advantage of right now, but something.
Well, that's good. I mean, I admire that you. I mean, I look at your kids and I think highly of them. Aria. Even Keith. No, matter of fact, Keith's. I'm joking.
Wow.
Even Keith.
I'm joking. I'm joking.
The title
I'm joking that
when he sees this in 10 years.
I was going to say, are we PG-13 content? No, but he did our story hour yesterday, which is again, like I'm saying, pros and cons. You may have tremendous resources in the public school that a Christian school can't provide. But they can the county will bring in some resources. Well, likewise, there is I believe, an advantage to, you can be educating your kids, but also be bringing them with you. You can make your own schedule, in other words. And yesterday, Keith read to the kids at our story hour. And he did a great job. Yeah. So I'm saying,
it was like a little bit of a proud dad moment.
Yeah.
Deborah filmed it, and I'm like, there he is.
Inflection. I mean, he was gone. I even thought, there you go. Good job. Well done. Yeah.
And honestly, he actually, he's him. He's a little bit on the shy side. He's rambunctious, but if you're talking to him, he's like, oh, hey, but he actually asked Keely, hey, can I read a book? Because he, it's like the superpower he just got. Yeah. He's like, I know exactly what book I'll read, and
I think there was an aspect to it. I mean, they love Keely reading.
Oh, yeah.
But I think there was an aspect to the other kids. It's one of he's not there. He's older than them. But I just don't like looking at some of their faces, and I videoed the faces of the kids. Yeah. They're listening and laughing as he's doing, kind of being silly with some of it.
Right.
Yeah, but it was neat that he could be involved in.
One thing I was going to just say real quick was I was thinking about before was we talked on the topic of just the fact that not every family is fit for a homeschool life or a private school life or public school life, and like testament to that is just that, like for me personally, like looking back from an educational standpoint, I know with my experience, I probably would have benefited from a public school environment. I was already social. I was becoming social, and I was like very shy and stuff for a long time early on. But had I just gone to public school, I mean, I already had friends there, so it would have just, kind of broken the ice a lot easier for me. But I think I probably would have learned more things being in public school, and
What do you mean by learning?
like educationally, like book smarts. It took me a long time to kind of come around and start reading books for on my own volition, where I enjoyed it and I wanted to learn things. And like now, I love learning things, and I just like reading and
Awesome.
and listening and whatever. But like early on, it was like all self motivated, and my mom would kind of spur me on, and she would teach me things at different times throughout the day. But like, learning history, I'm just reading a history textbook, and it's just facts.
Yeah.
So I had no like real history engagement on how to learn it, and retain it. Whereas maybe if I was in public school, that might be different.
And
But again, by the way, I also might have turned out totally different if I was in public school. So,
but I appreciate what you, that aspect of social impact. Like you could say, kids are missing out some of that social impact, but in both Christian school and public school, there can be a real peer pressure that can be negative.
Yeah.
And I would say, even from our family experience, for Vince, who was a terrific student in elementary school, he was the shortest kid in his class, experienced surprise. And he experienced he experienced peer pressure in, his, eighth, ninth, that clearly impacted his grades.
Yeah.
He became much more, focused on that he was, with his early years. So we knew it wasn't an IQ problem or intelligence. It was, he had lost his desire for education or whatever, and was focused more on some of that. And so in that regard, even though you may say, there could be, a loss of some of being shaped in that, homeschooling really provides, without that, is much pressure in the educational environment itself, is all I'm saying. So that when you're sitting there learning in the classroom, you're not looking at the bully who's saying after school, man.
Yeah, right. It does kind of cut down on some distractions, and two, there was a little bit of an element of like, I was on the outside looking in. Even when I was with my friend group that all went to public school, we'd meet up after school and we'd go all throughout the town skating or whatever. And like some of these kids, I only hung out with for a summer or two. I haven't talked to them in 20 years or whatever. But like, in those moments, there's peer pressure, and I'm fully engaged with people who weren't going to church, and I didn't know outside of, for any other source, right? But I think probably how I was raised and the home that my parents ran from just a plainly moral and scriptural standpoint. When I'm with that friend group, I'm thinking like, that's weird. Why would you do that? And I had like this weird disconnect where I wasn't with them every day, all day long, and learning these things alongside them. I'm seeing this maybe for the first time, something like either they're smoking or drinking or whatever, they're underage, and I'm like, I don't understand the desire for this. Like, I don't get it. And so there was like that barrier naturally, I think, that just kept me from, I couldn't see a real reason to do those things. So it just kept me from doing them. And
I want to say one other thing, and it's more about education as a whole. No, just that, because I remember talking to Pat Cook about this, and Pat Cook, had her doctorate, and she was a principal at Morristown School. So she's brilliant. Mm-hmm. But just having an honest discussion of, we live in a, I guess, world, but country, where we are telling kids, here's your path to success. Sit in a schoolroom or homeschool room for the next 12 years of your life. And I said to Pat, aren't there a lot of kids who at age 12 would be a lot better off if they got to run an acre of the farm or they got to go work on cars. Obviously, I'm not looking for children's labor. But my point is that they would, and she agreed that there is a reality. We're basically saying to all kids, your path to success is academic. And everybody's not, and really, if we did allow ninth graders to go work on, in other words, they would excel in.
Well, they have vocational schools.
Right. And I was going to say, I think that's a great value as well, that maybe a homeschool parent can knows trades, but I think for the future, like America's going to need some more tradesmen. I just think we need people who can fix refrigerators, and well, now we just throw them away.
With our kids too, like I say that we don't necessarily. I wouldn't say we follow a curriculum so much as so much as maybe I don't really know how to phrase it, but sort of like a life path, choices, daily choices. So we kind of value more experiences with our teaching of the kids rather than the academic. I mean, I think we have a good balance. We teach them math and science and history and scripture and things like that. But overall, we're not going to ever think, oh, well, you have to do your math.
Yeah.
We can't go over to walk in, the preserve and examine birds or examine leaves and trees and, nature and things like that. We would never be like, nope, you got to do your math right now. Right. You can't ever miss a day. It's not like that. So we incorporate music and art and things like that too. So we went to the Philadelphia Museum of Art one time. Not even an intentional plug, but yes.
Spring.
Yeah. And, so, yeah, I mean, I just think there's many ways that families can go about schooling their children. And I think it goes back to what you said in the beginning, where from a Christian perspective, what really matters is your relationship with Christ and your intentionality on growing in Christ.
Yeah.
And wherever God says you should have your kids schooled is what you should follow. And that could be in any area.
That.
So,
and I just want to say, as far as the church goes, you can tell me if we're out of time, that to you and to anybody who's listening, I do feel very much we can have a role to support. And when you mention come-ups, I've said to even my own children, that the church is available to you. This is your church. So if you get 3, 4 families, whatever, and you want to use Fellowship Hall on a Tuesday morning, I don't think there's anything going on, to do to bring a homeschool group together, and they're going to, I want you to know that we very much would want the church to be a resource to you or any families in our church who wanted to kind of come together to broaden that teaching experience.
Yeah.
And I think that's where we're going to end. So thank you, Steve, for coming and joining us.
Thanks.
Appreciate it.
We appreciate you, and I think the world of what you're doing with your family.
Thanks.
Yeah.
And Deb gets some credit too. Deb.
She gets most of the credit. Trust me.
I'll give her
most of the credit.
Yeah.
I mean, hopefully she likes Bob Dylan, but that's how
she doesn't. I'm telling you right now, buddy.
I still don't get it. Okay, thanks.
All right.
We'll see you later.
Thanks for joining us. Keep those comments.
Yeah. No, you're good. No, we should subscribe and
yes.
like us and follow us and do all that stuff.